The Incredible Hulk versus Zeus and the Greek gods. Hulk versus Hercules. Hercules is one of the foremost avatars of human strength throughout history. Given this accolade, there is no other hero tailor-made to challenge the mythical powerhouse than the Incredible Hulk. And the story knows it, shepherding readers into a bout between the two immediately. It turns out to be an arcade game, with Amadeus Cho and Hercules himself at the controls. Cho wins, having controlled Hulk, and returns to their booth where Athena waits. While Hercules is grabbing a beer, Athena and Cho discuss recent events, particularly the latter's advocacy for the Hulk. But Cho has reached a realization regarding the Jade Giant. I can run the numbers, so I could see he was always pulling his punches, looking out for the little people. But in the end, he really could have killed us all. In contrast, Cho feels Hercules rivals the Hulk's power, and has better jokes to boot. Athena chuckles at this and regales Cho with one of her brother's most impressive yet inordinate adventures, his defense of Olympus against the giants. Gaia, the embodiment of Mother Earth, had given birth to not only Thor, the god of thunder, but also to Demogorge, the god eater. This vicious cycle of birthing life and death repeats itself 3 times throughout history. First, Gaia sends the Titans to combat Uranus, who had banished her children, the Cyclops. Then, when the Titans began enslaving the Cyclops, Gaia would send in the gods to free them. But alas, the gods imprisoned the Titans, an act that once again garnered Gaia's sympathies, and Mother Earth sent the giants to destroy the gods. This time, though, Gaia's plans failed to materialize, as the gods had the mighty Hercules on their side. So the giants remain imprisoned until Gaia's newest monster rises up to topple the gods. This was meant to be the Hulk, but the hero was banished by Doctor Strange to a place called the Crossroads. Hulk could visit countless other worlds until he found happiness in one of them. However, should things deteriorate, he could return to the Crossroads and venture to a new home. And Hulk tried several times, butting heads with foes like the Iron Knights and the Puffball Collective. But Gaia would eventually find him again, leading to his arrival in the fields of Olympus. Meanwhile, at Madison Square Garden, Hercules is putting on the event of a lifetime with the Unlimited Class Wrestling Federation, a wrestling promotion for supers. He dispenses his opponents with both ease and gusto, even mocking the Thing's catchphrase while delivering a big boot. If by clobbering you mean letting you get in close enough for me to use the Gastrizin, then I most heartily agree. But the contest comes to a close when Hermes calls Hercules back to Olympus, aware of the Hulk's arrival. Back in that realm, the interloper stumbles upon 2 giants, Callias and Zeno, having a meal in honor of their fallen comrades. Callias is particularly happy for the company, telling the Hulk all about his people's history with Olympus and, unfortunately, their current imprisonment within Tartarus. Callias then gestures towards the great mural behind them, confirming it's actually the gates to Tartarus itself. There's nothing but good vibes between Hulk and the 2 genial giants, which makes things all the more jarring when the god of war, Ares, interjects to break up the friendly banter. But the Hulk's loyalty is both simple and steadfast, as Athena explains. I have no doubt that the Hulk did not understand the nature of the conflict. All he knew was that those who sheltered him were being threatened, and that was all he needed to know. The god should have called in Kratos instead, because Ares only manages to break his weapon and eat dirt after his skirmish with the Avenger. Callias and Zeno are shocked by their new friend's prowess in battle, but more than happy to utilize it for their own gain. Pointing into the clouds, Callias indicates the very seat of the Greek pantheon, Mount Olympus, as the Hulk's next target. Channeling his rage into the freakish pythons he calls legs, Hulk leaps from the ground all the way to the top of Mount Olympus, right outside the gates of the palace, in one jump. We're talking 9,570 feet, or close to 2 miles into the sky. This feat of power is outdone only by Hercules' next feat of timing. He arrives at exactly the same time to confront Hulk, clinging to Hermes as the speedster's breakneck pace leaves a sandstorm in their wake. From here, the fight resembles the work of the UCWF from earlier, as the 2 cartoonishly clad muscle men trade slobber knockers and suplexes. When the Hulk charges, Hercules uses the Avenger's own momentum to perform a double-leg takedown. Hercules proceeds to bury his foe in punches until something phenomenal happens. Using the strength of his pecs alone, Hulk literally flexes Hercules off of him. Following that up with his trademark thunderclap, Hulk establishes himself as no pushover. Even better, his clap sends Hercules smashing through the gates to Olympus, thereby guaranteeing the Hulk's entry into the city. No sooner does Hercules land than Hulk comes swinging with a column. A punch from the seated Olympian puts an end to that while temporarily blinding the Hulk, allowing Hercules to get to his feet. But Ares, having dug himself out of the crater the Hulk left him in, interjects himself and seeks to once again engage with the interloper. Hercules halts him with a mighty right hook just as our narrator, Athena, arrives. She informs her brother of Ares' provocation of Hulk, and Hercules accepts his sister's word. As he extends his hand to Hulk, a screeching echoes throughout Olympus. The sound is traced to the gates of Tartarus, which soon fissured out and gave way to giants and titans alike. Kronos, the leader of the Titans when Gaia had first enticed them against Uranus, once again leads the charge upon Olympus. However, the real monster was up in the sky, the Demogorge, the God Eater, descending upon the city of the gods. The beast also conveniently lays out the stakes for everyone. If the giants win, if Olympus falls, then the cosmic axis shifts, and the God Eater feasts. As if on cue, the giants and titans begin hurling boulders and spears toward the cliff where Zeus, Hercules, Hulk, and the rest of the gods stand. Though they fear the Demogorge, Hercules realizes the true threat when Zeus takes a spear to the shoulder. At the insistence of his father, Hercules dives into the fray with Hulk, Ares, and Athena by his side. Hulk goes right for Kronos and nearly meets his end if not for his pals from earlier, Callias and Zeno, yanking him to safety. Before he's even regained his footing, the unthinkable happens. Hercules, enmeshed in the fury of battle, deals mortal wounds to both of the friendly giants. Hulk is left speechless as Callias and Zeno crumple to the ground. Meanwhile, Hercules finishes the fight by impaling Kronos and forcing him back into Tartarus. With the majority of the pantheon focused on sealing up Tartarus, the Demogorge begins to descend once again. But Hercules is alerted to the danger by Hermes and confronts the demonic creature on the cliffside. "We gods have triumphed, Demogorge. You have no claim here, but if it's a meal you want, I've got one to stick in your craw." The God Eater simply laughs at this line and takes off towards the setting sun, opting to return another time when his prey is weakened. Zeus declares the battle over and Hercules the hero, but the strong man knows he couldn't have done it without the interloping Hulk. But when he offers the Jade Giant his hand, Hulk decides to return to the crossroads, that ethereal realm of countless other worlds. We then go back to the booth in the restaurant where Athena has been recounting the story for Cho, all in an attempt to make the young man see that Hercules had done wrong. Whether blinded by adrenaline or not, Athena explains that her brother would have killed Hulk's giant friends regardless, particularly if Zeus had ordered him to. This was the lesson from the goddess. You choose to walk with titans, Amadeus, and if you are unprepared to accept that gods must sometimes be monsters, you could bring doom upon us all. How'd you know, Athena? A few years later, Hercules would be brought face to face with the living embodiment of his sister's prophetic words. This would come toward the end of the Chaos War, when Hercules embraced his responsibilities as Allfather and opposed the Chaos King. This would see the mythological hero literally duke it out with the villain at sizes rivaling entire solar systems. Cosmic warfare on an unfathomable scale. Meanwhile, on puny little Earth, Amadeus Cho, Hulk, his Incredible Hulks, and a smattering of other Marvel bigwigs fight the Chaos Legions. It's a trippy landscape as reality is seemingly blending in on itself to the point where heroes that were in different locations find themselves together again. The threat of the Chaos King, particularly his all-consuming appetite, is insurmountable, and so Cho works with Galactus to transport Earth to a sealed-off bubble universe known as Continuum. While it's technically just running away, there's not much else they can do against such a gargantuan foe. Hercules' punches can only get them so far. And there were plenty of others in the fight, like the God Squad, Alpha Flight, and the aforementioned Incredible Hulks. All of these groups would get their shot at the Chaos King when Hercules traps him in a headlock, then forces the monster's head to the surface of Earth. But despite their efforts, including a gnarly uppercut from Hercules, the ancient god of evil still overwhelms them. First, he takes Galactus. Then the Chaos King sets his sight on Earth, swallowing up Cho with a proclamation of victory. Your last ounce of strength against my perfect darkness? Weep, gods and heroes. Now chaos is king. Perfect once more in the void. All becomes nothing. The king may have consumed a universe, but Cho had arranged a trip for him. Hercules' uppercut had not been for spite. The hero had knocked the Chaos King into Continuum, the bubble universe Cho and the rest had been trying to escape to. Earth 616 had avoided becoming chaos fodder, but remained a mess afterward. Collapsed skyscrapers and mountains were surrounded by nothingness, hinting at the dark fate that they had avoided. Hercules is visited by a vision of Athena and is told of his destiny. He must continue as the Allfather and remake the world in his image. But Herc chooses a different path. As my first and last act as Allfather, I do what any true god should do. What the heroes among us do every day. I give up everything to protect, to heal, to restore, and then to walk away. So Hercules reconstructs the world as it was, choosing instead to allow it to decide its own fate. But unknowingly, he had also chosen his. The strain of restoring the universe, including bringing back fallen heroes, saps Hercules of all his superpowered energies. The man known for his power now possessed none, walking among his mortal neighbors as one of them. Crazier still, Herc's depowered status is only discovered when a high five from Cho actually hurts the Olympian. The hierarchy of power in the Marvel Universe had indeed changed, but it would change further still in the days to come. As Hercules returned to Olympus that day, the seeds of strife would fester within his hulking comrades. Hulk versus Olympian gods. The universe had returned to normal thanks to Hercules. But what does normal look like? It turns out to have many faces in the Marvel Universe. For the planet, it means fire and destruction are snuffed out by a graceful wind. For the fallen civilians and heroes alike, it means awakening from an amnesic slumber. And for the Incredible Hulks, it's back to being seen as monsters by those they save. This group is composed of Hulk, his son Scar, his cousin She-Hulk, his friends A-Bomb and Korg, and his on-again off-again romantic interest, Red She-Hulk. The greeting this party of protectors receives upon the humans' restoration is downright atrocious, with them being pelted by rocks and publicly ridiculed. Hulk is less surprised than his companions and becomes lost in thought as the scene drifts to the seaside town of Montauk. Here, gigantic fire astronauts are swept away in the restorative wind, and the people begin to reawaken. But they have immediate cause to question whether they're still dreaming, because up in the sky, the gigantic form of Zeus, lightning bolt and all, is returning to Mount Olympus. A day goes by, and the shores of Montauk are swarmed with the press, driven mad by the sudden appearance of a new mountain in the water, purportedly where Zeus was seen. If that wasn't miraculous enough, we get some Jesus-inspired action when Hulk, now in the form of Banner, walks across the waves to reach the new landmass. The people predictably proclaim him a god, but Bruce scoffs. No, kind of the opposite. But he does approach a god, formerly at least. The hero of the hour and newly depowered Olympian Hercules awaits him on the rocky bank. Things start out friendly enough as Hercules inquires as to what Banner is seeking. Bruce starts by demonstrating his knowledge of his friend's actions during the Chaos War. In particular, he recognizes Hercules' power as the Allfather and his role in restoring everything in the aftermath. But Bruce contends that the Olympian forgot to help one group of people, the Hulks. A-Bomb's horribly injured, he needs to be healed. Red She-Hulk's insane, she needs to be cured. And Korg and Scar just need to find a place where they can belong. To his credit, Banner practically begs Hercules to help them by utilizing his magic, an irony the good doctor might appreciate if he wasn't so desperate. Regardless, Hercules breaks the bad news to Bruce. The Olympian was depowered following his revival of the universe. He no longer possessed the power of the Allfather, with the power being returned to Zeus. Trying to reassure Banner, Herc essentially asks him to make peace with what is. Yeah, that's not something Hulk or Banner would do. They either smash or smart their way through any obstacle, and this one appears to be no different. Banner resolves to storm up Mount Olympus and confronts the King of the Gods. But before he does, he asks Herc for one more favor. Hit me. Now properly hulked out, the Jade Giant promises Herc to keep the latter's involvement a secret from Zeus. That's not the only god Hulk would have to keep in the dark, though. Zeus rolls out a laundry list of mythological acquaintances to welcome the interloper. First, he causes a splash with his brother Poseidon, whom Hulk affectionately calls Water Boy. He's not wrong, but this proves less a demeaning insult and more a prophetic one. And that's because Hulk is blasted with a tsunami that reaches half the height of Mount Olympus and pins him against the cliff wall. He then plunges into the forested region beneath, leaving Poseidon to retire back into the depths of the ocean. But rather than finding serenity in the nature around him, Hulk only finds more agitated gods. A few arrows plunging into the flesh of his back announce the arrival of Artemis, the famed goddess of the hunt, accompanied by her dogs. The latter may have been intended as weapons, but they turn out to be liabilities. Hulk gets a hold of Artemis's dogs and forces the goddess to stop her pursuit. Even when the hero spares her dogs in good faith, Artemis continues to batter the Hulk with arrows as he scales the mountain. The Avenger just chuckles at her efforts, which seemingly triggers Zeus, and the Allfather calls for further punishment for the Hulk. Boreas, or the god of the north wind, blasts Hulk with his freezing breath. When this doesn't stop him, Zeus takes the opposite approach by recruiting Apollo to incinerate the Hulk instead. Nope, doesn't work either. So the Allfather grabs the proverbial kitchen sink and hurls every mythological cliche at the interloper. Cyclops, Centaurs, and Gorgons attack the Hulk, but he fights on, eventually laying the lot of them out by collapsing a pillar. Similar to how he tried to attack Hercules in their earlier one-on-one, but with more luck this time. But Zeus's voice reverberates in his head, mentioning such lofty names as Odysseus and Prometheus, and he struggles to see the Hulk in league with figures like this. If those legendary heroes failed, how could this savage brute hope to succeed? To his credit, the Jade Giant has an answer. Easy. I'm the Hulk. Zeus both likes and despises this. The former is evidenced by the God Kings finally appearing before his opponent, while the latter is signaled by the massive bolt of lightning he greets him with. Even the Hulk needs a breather after taking 300 million volts, or he may just have been tired out from all the previous fights. Either way, Zeus seems rather proud of himself for accomplishing what his flunkies could not. No doubt the God King will soon be impressed by his enemy's entourage. Hulk versus Zeus. So what exactly makes a pantheon? Is it the ability to warrant worship or command natural elements? Or simply an adventurous spirit and the prowess to topple grandiose beasts? If it's the latter, then the Incredible Hulk should begin receiving shrines pronto. About 6 miles from where their leader scales Mount Olympus, She-Hulk, Red She-Hulk, Korg, and Scar have commandeered a vessel. The gang, en route to bolster the Hulk in his quest, sails upon some choppy waters, particularly when the Kraken practically gobbles up their boat whole. And this is not even the most preposterous thing happening. A mighty lightning bolt streaks downwards from the sky and blasts Olympus, sending concussive shockwaves outward. The Incredible Hulk's attention is briefly diverted from the monster attacking their ship. Meanwhile, back on the mountaintop, full attention is being paid to Hulk. Zeus' son Hephaestus approaches the downed hero and tries to get a reading on his vitals. There's really no need though, because Hulk rises to his feet almost immediately. He taunts Zeus, asking if the God King really truly thought that Hulk was afraid of him. And this makes Zeus very, very angry. He bombards his opponent with 2 handfuls of lightning, removes his cloak, and cracks his knuckles. No more traps or tricks. This was now a brawl. And though Zeus remembers Hulk from his first visit to Olympus, all bets are off when the Avenger takes a total cheap shot. While Zeus is speaking with Hera, Hulk pounces and swipes both his fists across the god's face as hard as he can. It's a tad brutish, but it gets the job done. Zeus goes flying and crashes against one of the many columns of Olympus, also allowing for a cameo from Pan, a god of the wild. But Zeus's counterattack is questionable. Instead of hurling his lightning at Hulk, he aims it at the ground before his opponent and declares, "The word of Zeus. Your terms, beast." Hulk's only request is for a little less talking. Fair enough. Zeus proceeds to pound Hulk into the marble pavement, destroying more columns and collapsing yet more Olympus. But it's not just destroying the city. The entire mountain begins to collapse into the water far below, where the Incredible Hulks continue their feud with the Kraken. Upon one of these careening cliffs is Hulk, and he conveniently lands adjacent to his gang's now totaled vessel. He is not happy to see them though, yelling some vague statement about them ruining everything. While it's not immediately clear what he's referring to, what is clear is that this Kraken needs to be dealt with. So Hulk chucks a boulder at it, once again orders his team to leave, and in a nice callback to his first visit, leaps back to the top of Mount Olympus in one jump. He even lands right in front of Zeus, which fuels the latter's ferocity more as he continues to pummel the Avenger before pitching him against another column. This one really hurts the Hulk though, causing him to puke at the sheer abuse his body is enduring. He stays on his knees as Hera approaches, commanding him to stop his crusade. But Banner won't, not until he gets what he came for. And it isn't revenge on Zeus or a fit of rage. Hera breaches the walls of Hulk's mind and brings out the truth. Your family, misplaced monsters, broken and tortured. So all of this, to save their souls? You don't even believe in God, yet here you are asking for miracles. It was always about getting what was best for his people. Healing for A-Bomb, a cure for Red She-Hulk, and a proper home for Korg and Scar. Banner would die for this or go down fighting, whatever his gamble turned up. But it was worth the risk of his own life to save the others. Zeus has one of the best lines of the entire comic once Hera uncovers his opponent's motives. Offering yourself as a sacrifice, dying for other people's sins. Wrong religion. He's not wrong, which is probably why he feels justified in re-engaging the Hulk and punching him out of the city. Scar witnesses this and cries out for his fallen father. But things aren't over for the Hulk on Mount Olympus, and they devolve further once Hephaestus rediscovers the hero. Chaining him with unbreakable restraints to a rock beneath the open sky, Hephaestus plans to keep the vultures fed with his new bait. And just as Jesus spent 3 days in the tomb before rising again, so Hulk bears 3 days of being buzzard food. His eye even gets pecked out at one point. Is this where things are to end with the saga of Hulk versus the gods? Not if his old buddy Hercules has anything to say about it. Yes, somehow that depowered strongman managed to climb Mount Olympus and take out the vultures with nothing but a bow and some arrows. Perhaps it's irony or poetic justice that a god would save Hulk from the trials forced upon him by the gods. Nevertheless, Hercules is not alone. The Incredible Hulks have accompanied him, with Scar still clutching the tentacle of Cetus. To say the entourage has made the big guy proud would be an understatement. The team returned the favor that had inspired the Hulk to begin the battle with Olympus in the first place. Perhaps it wasn't from the gods that the Incredible Hulks would receive new lives, but rather from each other and those willing to find the morals within the monster. In the closing pages, Hera seems keen to continue the conflict, particularly after the emergence of Hercules. But Zeus has always humored his son, and Vera knows this better than anyone. Nevertheless, she suggests the formation of a new vanguard of champions to take out the Incredible Hulks, imploring her husband that his might must not be challenged so publicly. Uncharacteristically, the God King does not see it this way. Zeus seems content with what has transpired and feels confident that the Hulk has learned his lesson. The Hulk knows my power now. Long months will pass before he forgets my wrath. And in truth, he brought his true punishment upon himself long ago. Even now it comes to consume him again. Deep in the Savage Land, where the survivors of Sakaar have fostered the village of New Imperia and continue to await the return of their leader, the Hulk, they receive concerning news. A spy returns with news of the Hulk's escapades, and it's certain that none of them involve his return to these stranded survivors. This is primarily blamed on the Incredible Hulks, with the group filling the familial void Banner has that may have once been filled by the Sakaarians. Angered by this, the group's leader, Mayak the Unhived, calls for this new family's demise, and in so doing, channels the Hulk's own words. Never stop making them pay. The Green Scar lived by those words. Now swears Mayak the Unhived, he will die by them. Here's our video on why everyone in the Marvel Universe hates fighting the Hulk.